3 years in the making, 6 months of production, over 100 students involved, and 250 hours of building this labor of love called Amihan. Kwentuhan po tayo at kilalanin natin ang mga estudyanteng naging involved in building this beautiful boat. Aloha! Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Giovanni Ortega, ang inyong Kulturahan Correspondent here at KIKU in Farrington Highschool with the builder of this amazing boat called Amihan. His name is Bob Miller.
Hello.
Welcome. Aloha, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Aloha to you. Welcome to Hawaii.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Tell us about this amazing project that you were a part of. It started out as a FOB project. It's this amazing concept of reclaiming our roots. And I think you decided to build a boat out of this.
Well, I decided to build a boat simply because of the number of Filipino students that I have here at Farrington.
What is the percentage of that?
I would say in my class alone, I have 90 students a day. I would say 90% of my student population is Filipino, and of that 90%, probably half were actually born in the Philippines.
Wow.
So it was like, it just made me feel as if this opportunity came to me, how could I not do it? And I just felt that it a needed shot in the arm for self-esteem and self-realization and the understanding that, you know, the Philippines has a rich cultural background in seafaring activities, and I just thought it was great, and I knew that the undertaking would be monumental. And as I predicted, it was.
Well, you have some photos from the inception and the conceptual ideas of this boat.
I do. And
here's some of the students.
Yeah, here's some of the students that I had. You know, I did get some advice from some boat builders, and what I was doing is laying out a building table, and they were building it for me and some of my construction students. And this is where I was going to actually build the boat upside down. And I couldn't visualize it until I actually started building it. This was the wood that we got. We got 1x3 clear Filipino mahogany. So it was actually 2.5 inches wide, and I had to go through the process. And I didn't want my kids to do this simply because there was a tremendous amount of sawdust and dust involved, and I had a dust mask on. So I spent hours taking this wood and stripping it down until I had enough to start building the boat. And I set this sander up so I could make sort of an angle on the wood, because I had to match them together. And again, that's basic to any kind of building if you're going to match two pieces of wood together. And then, as you can see, I just from the book and from YouTube, I started making these pieces, okay? And this is the form that I was going to follow to shape the boat. And again, looking at pictures, looking at YouTube, and I just said, well, let's see how it's going to come out. Okay, so I built those, and then once I had the shape built, I started taking each one of those 1/4-inch strips and individually nailing and stapling and gluing and shaping and moving them along one at a time. It was absolutely tedious. And at some point, when I think I got up to this point right here, I started thinking about how I wish I never had met Elena, because this was driving me crazy, the monotony of it. But then it started building up to this point over here, and you can say I started building. And then when I started getting to the front, I just had a misstep with the shape of it, and because I knew that we were going to fiberglass it, I got my handy-dandy gallon of Bondo auto filler, and I just started shaping it myself, because, I guess had I done this, sitting down at a CAD station, I guess I would have had it figured out that if I was going to sit at a CAD station, the boat still would not have been anywhere near where it's at now.
So here you have students getting involved.
Right, and they were involved to a small point, but now once it was built and once I felt it was safe for them to work on it, then they were absolutely getting well. Clifford over here, I was hoping that he was going to be here. I told him 4:30. He's my teaching assistant and a real great guy and willing to get involved. Also born in the Philippines, he's enlisted in the Army. Upon graduation, he'll be leaving. And he just did a tremendous amount of sanding and shaping and so forth. And Jeffrey and Jerry, they were involved in a lot of the sanding and shaping as well. I discussed with Elena how the Philippines saved 1,200 or 1,500 Jews during the Holocaust, and that's meaningful. So.
We'll take a moment and pause, but when we come back, we will have some of the students who were heavily involved in this project. Ako po si Giovanni Ortega, and this is Kababayan Today's Kulturahan.